Yo, you still on the Steam Deck OLED? Obviously, best screen in a handheld right now, HDR, OLED, no setup headaches, you just game and go. Okay, but you haven't spent real time with the Ally X yet. 120Hz display, more RAM, bigger battery, it's basically a portable gaming laptop. Yeah, with Windows, you ever try clicking those tiny icons with joysticks? Okay, fine, whatever. Let's ask someone who's actually neutral. Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Okay, yeah, no.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's break this down properly. Let's put everything on the table. So the Steam Deck OLED versus the ROG Ally X. Which handheld is actually worth your money? If you're thinking about picking up a new gaming device, this is the video you need to watch. I've been testing both of these side by side for the past couple of weeks, and today I'm breaking it all down. Performance, design, battery life, and telling you which one I'd buy if I had to choose just one. Let's get into it. If you use the original Steam Deck, the OLED version will feel very familiar. Valve stuck with the same overall shape, but with noticeable upgrades in build quality and materials. It now features a matte black shell, which not only looks sleek and stealthy, but also gives off a slightly retro vibe that a lot of people love. It's lighter than the original too, thanks to the updated materials and redesigned internals. Overall, it feels more premium in the hands. The buttons and the joysticks are slightly close to the edges this time. Some people find that great for fast access, but honestly, I found it a bit cramped. Everything feels tightly packed, especially during longer sessions. One of the biggest standouts though are the dual touchpads with haptic feedback. Whether you're aiming, scrolling, or navigating desktop mode, you get that subtle vibration that mimics a real click. It adds precision and makes the Steam Deck feel almost like a hybrid between a controller and a mouse, something the Ally X doesn't offer. You also get 4 programmable rear buttons, which are super handy for power users, especially in fast-paced games where every shortcut counts. The ROG Ally X, on the other hand, goes for a more futuristic gamer aesthetic. It comes in an all-black finish with a mix of textured matte plastic and soft touch accents. The design is inspired by ROG's gaming laptops, which are angular, sharp, and performance-focused. The ergonomics have definitely improved from the original Ally. The deeper grips, larger D-pad, and spaced out buttons make for a really natural and comfortable hand position. It also has 2 rear programmable buttons for added customization. However, the grips are a bit smaller than what you get on the Steam Deck OLED, and for me, that became noticeable during longer play sessions. If comfort over time is your top priority, I give the edge to the Steam Deck over here. The Steam Deck OLED features stereo speakers and honestly punch above their weight. The sound is clear, and for a handheld device, the bass is surprisingly decent. You won't be rattling any windows, but it's more than good enough for casual gaming or watching videos without headphones. That said, the ROG Ally X steps things up with smart amplifier technology and Dolby Atmos support. Its front-facing stereo speakers deliver louder, more immersive audio with noticeably richer bass and cleaner highs. Whether you're in a cutscene or playing an open-world game, the sound feels fuller and more dynamic. Now, when it comes to private listening, both devices perform great. Each one has a 3.5mm headphone jack and solid Bluetooth audio support, so whether you're rocking wired or wireless headphones, you're getting quality sound either way. When it comes to connectivity, both the Steam Deck OLED and ROG Ally X give you a solid set of options, but the Ally definitely pushes ahead in a few key areas. Starting with the Steam Deck OLED, Valve keeps it simple but functional. You get a single USB-C port with DisplayPort 1.4 support, so you can charge it, connect it to an external display, or plug it into a dock. It's not Thunderbolt to USB 4, so you don't get a native eGPU support, but for most accessories and basic setups, it works just fine. There's also a 3.5mm headphone jack, Bluetooth 5.3 for wireless devices, and a Wi-Fi 5, which gets the job done, but it isn't as fast and efficient as the newer standards. Now, the ROG Ally X steps things up here. Asus ditched the old proprietary XG model port and instead gave us 2 USB-C ports, one of which supports USB 4, which means full-speed data display output and even external GPU support. The second USB-C port supports regular charging and data as well, which is super convenient. You can charge and connect to accessories or displays at the same time without needing a dock or adapter. It also comes with Wi-Fi 6E, giving you much faster and more stable wireless performance, especially noticeable for gaming, streaming, or downloading big titles. Just like the Steam Deck, it also supports Bluetooth 5.3 and has a 3.5mm headphone jack. So while the Steam Deck OLED keeps things streamlined, the Ally X feels more future ready. That dual USB-C setup and faster wireless really give it the edge in flexibility and day-to-day performance. When performing side-by-side comparisons between the displays on both of these handheld devices, the differences in technology become very clear and honestly hard to ignore. The Steam Deck OLED features a beautiful 7.4-inch OLED HDR panel that has now set a new standard for handheld gaming devices. I mean, come on, I'm sure we can all agree that we would love to see HDR OLED panels on every handheld going forward. The screen runs at a native resolution of 1280 by 800 and delivers a smooth motion thanks to its 90Hz maximum refresh rate. This technology adds a major visual upgrade to the Steam Deck OLED, truly elevating the overall gaming experience. It's impossible not to notice the screen's vibrant and true life colors and deep blacks. Games like Cyberpunk 2077 really show off how deep these blacks get, while open world gamings like Elden Ring demonstrate the superior color accuracy and vibrancy that the OLED brings. Now, moving on to the ROG Ally X, you'll find a slightly more compact 7-inch IPS panel, but it brings its own impressive features to the table. While it's a little smaller in size, it compensates with a high resolution of 1920 by 1080 and an exceptional smooth 120Hz refresh rate. The Ally X also supports VRR, which is variable refresh rate, which helps improve smoothness during gameplay. That said, some people have noticed the impact of VRR during their sessions, while others have said they barely noticed the difference at all. Both devices feature anti-reflective coatings, but again, the Steam Deck OLED pulls slightly ahead here. The Deck's etched glass coating provides slightly better glare reduction compared to the Ally X. This makes it easier to use in bright environments or even outdoors. Plus, the etch finish gives the Steam Deck OLED a matte-like texture that reduces visible fingerprints. This is a really nice touch for everyday use. Now, moving into what is probably the biggest difference between these two handhelds, the operating system. The Steam Deck OLED runs SteamOS, a Linux-based system that's specifically designed for handheld gaming. It features a clean, intuitive interface that's easy to navigate with controller inputs, and it provides seamless integration with your Steam library, assuming you already have one. The interface is also super customizable, allowing you to adjust everything from performance settings to control layouts with just a few button presses. So SteamOS gives you two main modes. First, we have the gaming mode, which makes the Steam Deck feel like a true handheld console. Here you can get a streamlined quick access menu where you can instantly control settings like brightness, volume, and performance profiles. The sleep mode and resume feature is especially impressive, letting you pause your game and pick up exactly where you left off, usually within just a few seconds. Then we have desktop mode, which turns the Steam Deck OLED into a fully functional Linux-based PC. This mode expands the device capabilities even further, making it great for light productivity tasks like web browsing, file management, and even some light creative work. One important thing to note about SteamOS is its Proton compatibility layer, which allows Windows games to run on Linux. Most Steam games work flawlessly, but there are certain titles, especially those with anti-cheat systems like FIFA, or other games that are not great on the deck, like Black Myth Wukong, that can sometimes run into compatibility issues. That said, Valve regularly updates Proton to improve compatibility and performance, showing their commitment to making SteamOS a viable gaming platform. Now, on the other hand, the ROG Ally X takes a very different approach by running full Windows 11. This gives it immediate compatibility with virtually every PC game and application available. Whether you prefer Steam, Epic Games, Xbox Game Pass, Battle.net, or any other platform, they all work natively, no workarounds needed. This flexibility extends beyond gaming too. You can use Ally X for some productivity tasks like Microsoft Word, whatever you would normally do on a powerful Windows machine. This is helped even more by Ally X's upgraded RAM and storage over the Steam Deck. However, and there's always a however, Windows 11 was not built with handheld gaming in mind, and that becomes pretty obvious the more you use it. Navigation can feel clunky and frustrating, especially if you're trying to do some quick actions that are simple on the SteamOS. Plus, the heavier system overhead of Windows significantly impacts both battery life and performance compared to the lightweight SteamOS. Now, Asus has tried to bridge that gap with their Armoury Crate software, which acts like a central gaming hub for the Ally X. It gives you quick access to your game library, performance settings, profiles, and system controls. The Command Center feature even lets you create a collection of your favorite quick actions. These tools definitely make Windows handheld gaming a lot smoother, but they don't completely eliminate the core Windows challenges. Another thing worth mentioning, SteamOS updates are usually streamlined, fast, and focused solely on improving gaming performance and features. Meanwhile, the Windows updates are, well, Windows updates. They can sometimes be intrusive, forced, and can even occasionally break gaming performance until a patch drops. And when it comes to emulation, Windows again holds the advantage. You can install and run any emulator you want with full compatibility. On SteamOS, you can still emulate, but it usually takes a few extra steps through Proton or setting up Linux native apps. Finally, while the ROG Ally X does offer sleep mode through Windows, it's nowhere near as reliable or seamless as the Steam Deck OLED's quick suspend resume functionality. Sometimes Windows sleep just doesn't wake up cleanly or drains more battery than you would expect. When it comes to gaming performance, the differences between the Steam Deck OLED and the ROG Ally X become really clear, and it mostly comes down to hardware power versus system optimization. Starting with the Steam Deck OLED, it features a custom AMD APU and 16GB of LPDDR5 RAM. Now on paper, these specs might seem a little modest, especially when you line it up side by side with something like the Ally X, but the magic of the Steam Deck comes with how tightly integrated the hardware is with Steam Deck OS. Because of that optimization, the system can deliver smooth, efficient performance across most games, even without super high-end specs. The Steam Deck OLED runs at a maximum TDP of 15 watts, which is pretty low compared to the Ally X. While that doesn't limit peak performance, it seriously helps with battery life and keeps the device cooler during long gaming sessions. Plus, users can create their own custom profiles to fine-tune things like refresh rate, TDP limits, and performance settings. So you have a good amount of control if you want to balance power and battery life. Now over to the ROG Ally X, this device is packing some serious firepower. It features the AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor paired with 24GB of LPDDR5 RAM. That's not just a spec bump, it delivers enhanced performance in real-world gaming and especially noticeable in more demanding modern AAA titles. For example, when playing something like Cyberpunk 2077, the Ally X easily achieves higher frame rates compared to the Steam Deck OLED, resulting in noticeably smoother and more responsive experience. The Ally X also is far more aggressive when it comes to power. It can push up to 30-watt TDP when plugged in, unlocking a whole new tier of performance. It also offers more power profile controls through Armory Crate, letting you pick anything from 7 watts all the way up to 30 watts depending on what you need. Now, in real-world benchmarks like with Black Myth Wukong, at 15 watts, the Steam Deck OLED averages around 47 frames per second at similar settings. The Ally X at 50 watts averages a slightly higher 66 frames per second. But when you crank the Ally X to, let's say, 25 watts, the number jumps significantly, which is a massive difference that makes gameplay feel significantly smoother. In less demanding titles, both devices seem to perform great. You easily hit the max refresh rates in games like Ori and the Will of the Wisps or Hades. At that point, the extra horsepower of the Ally X isn't as noticeable because those games are much lighter on resources. When it comes to cooling, both devices handle things pretty well for the respective hardware, and both stay fairly quiet even under load. The Steam Deck OLED tends to stay cooler during extended game sessions. Thanks to the combination of less demanding hardware and the efficiency of SteamOS, the device rarely gets uncomfortably warm, even during longer playtimes. The ROG Ally X, on the other hand, runs a little warmer, which honestly makes sense given the more powerful CPU and GPU inside. Even during intensive gaming sessions though, it still remains comfortable enough to hold for hours without any real issues. You'll feel some heat around the top vents, but it's well managed and doesn't affect gameplay. In comparison, if you're playing lighter or moderately demanding games, the difference in heat isn't too noticeable, but if you're pushing AAA games for longer stretches, the Steam Deck OLED does stay cooler and slightly more comfortable overall. Moving on to battery life, the Steam Deck OLED and ROG Ally X offer very different experiences. The Steam Deck OLED is equipped with 50 watt per hour battery, which might sound modest on paper, but because of the strong integration between SteamOS and the hardware, it's surprisingly power efficient. For example, while playing Ori and the Will of the Wisp, it was able to last around 5 to 6 hours of continuous gameplay. In more demanding titles like Hogwarts Legacy or Elden Ring, the Steam Deck OLED managed about 4 hours before needing a recharge. Across the board, most games give you somewhere between 3 to 6 hours depending on how demanding they are and the settings you choose. The OLED model also supports fast charging, so you can quickly get back into your games with minimal downtime, or of course just plug in and keep playing indefinitely. Now the ROG Ally X, it comes with a much larger 80 watt per hour battery, which is a big upgrade over the original Ally. But because it's running more powerful hardware and the full Windows 11 operating system, it's not quite as efficient. In real-world use, when playing a lighter indie game under similar settings to the Steam Deck, the Ally X lasted about 4 hours. But in games like Hogwarts Legacy, the battery life dropped to around 2 hours and 35 minutes, noticeably shorter than the Steam Deck. This trend holds across most games with intensive titles, draining the Ally X's battery much faster. That said, the Ally X does include power management options through Armor Crate, letting you tweak performance and power profiles to stretch out battery life when needed. When comparing, the Steam Deck OLED offers better battery efficiency overall, especially in heavier games. The ROG Ally X can last long enough for short sessions and lighter titles, but if you're planning on playing high-demand games unplugged for long stretches, you'll notice the difference. Now, talking about storage, the Steam Deck OLED comes in two storage options, a 512GB model and the 1TB model, both using high-speed 2230 NVMe SSDs. These drives give you fast read and write speeds, so game installs are quick and loading times are short. That being said, if you have a large game library, the 512 option might feel a little tight over time, especially as newer games keep getting bigger and bigger. Thankfully, Steam makes it super easy to manage your library by letting you install and uninstall games easily. Plus, the Steam Deck supports microSD card expansion, which is a cost-effective way to add storage, though you'll slightly get lower load times compared to the internal SSD. The ROG Ally X, in contrast, comes with a 1TB 2280 NVMe SSD right out of the box. That's plenty of space for modern AAA titles, even the ones that are pushing 100GB or more. Just like the Steam Deck, the Ally X also supports microSD card expansion for extra storage if you need it. However, since it runs Windows 11, system files and updates tend to take up more space over time compared to the SteamOS. The good news is that because it uses a standard 2280 size SSD, upgrading the internal storage is much easier and much cheaper, giving you more affordable options if you need to expand later. Overall, the Steam Deck OLED has a clean, simple storage system that's easy to manage and expand, but with some size limitations if you stick to the 512GB. And the ROG Ally X offers more out-of-the-box storage and easier upgradability if you need even more space for giant game libraries. The ROG Ally X offers more out-of-the-box storage and easier upgradability if you need even more space for giant game libraries. Now, let's talk about pricing, because ultimately what you get for your money plays a huge role in which device makes more sense for you. The Steam Deck OLED starts at $549 USD for the 512 model and goes up to about $649 USD for the 1TB model. At that price, you're getting a beautiful OLED HDR screen, a device that's highly power efficient, and a system that feels incredibly polished and console-like thanks to SteamOS. And for users already invested in their Steam library, it's a no-brainer. You're basically getting a device that runs your games really well without much tweaking or setup needed. The ROG Ally X, on the other hand, is priced at around $799 USD. At that higher price, you're definitely getting more powerful hardware. You're getting a stronger AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor, more RAM at 24GB, higher screen resolution at 1080p, and a larger 80 Wh/hour battery. Not to mention full Windows 11 compatibility, which opens up access to virtually every game platform like Steam, Epic's Game Store, Xbox Game Pass, emulators, you name it. You're also getting an incredibly customizable experience, tweaking power profiles, adjusting settings at a granular level, running mods, and even using it for non-gaming tasks like light productivity. However, that flexibility comes at a cost, both literally and in terms of user experience. Windows 11 isn't optimized for handhelds, so expect a little more tinkering, troubleshooting, and adjusting compared to Steam Deck's plug-and-play experience. Battery life also isn't as strong when running heavy AAA games, despite the bigger battery. So after breaking down the display, the performance, battery life, and now the pricing, it's clear that both of these handhelds are seriously impressive, but they're built for slightly different types of gamers. Now the biggest question is, which one actually makes more sense for you? Let's wrap this up. When comparing the two directly, the Steam Deck OLED offers insane value for gamers who just want a reliable console-like handheld that works great out of the box, especially if you're mostly using Steam games. The ROG Ally X is for people who want maximum power, flexibility, and platform freedom, and who are willing to pay more for that extra performance and control. In simple terms, if you want simplicity, better battery life, a world-class screen, and lower cost, the Steam Deck OLED is the smarter buy. But if you want power, Windows compatibility, more control, and don't mind paying extra and tweaking things a little bit, the ROG Ally X delivers. At the end of the day, both devices offer incredible experiences, but the best choice depends entirely on what you personally value most: turnkey convenience or full-on PC flexibility. If this video helped you out, hit that like button. And if you want more honest tech breakdowns like this, consider subscribing. I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.